How's it going, everybody? I'm Lewis, and recently it was RuneFest, and the Old School RuneScape team had a big presentation showing us Old School reveals. So if you want to know what the Old School RuneScape reveals are, please click here for the original RuneFest 2015 video. I'm going to be going over what I think about each of the updates, as opposed to the details in those updates. So let's start off with having a look at the last 12 months and what they promised last RuneFest. So the Old School RuneScape team started by showing off what has happened in the last 12 months, mentioning what they decided to do at RuneFest 2014 and showing us what they've actually done. As we can see in this list, in-game polls, sailing, new continent, Slayer updates, they've all been polled, and if they passed, they actually got into the game. A few things, such as permadeath PvP worlds and auto-generated dungeons, haven't directly been added to the game, but some form of them will be added very soon. The only thing they didn't add that they mentioned was Titan Brawl, which would be a new minigame. However, if you ask any RuneScape player, or the majority of RuneScape players let's say, they don't really know that much about Titan Brawl because it was just something thrown out there at RuneFest 2014. Not many people were that interested in it, and not many people have talked about it. So, a very good year. However, you can't mention this year without mentioning free-to-play. Or should I say, free-to-play and bonds. So as they were polling free-to-play and bonds, they showed us this graph to show us what would happen if we didn't get free-to-play, what would happen if they gave us bonds and free-to-play, and what would happen if we got free-to-play on its own. In our current form, we've got free-to-play and bonds. The current figures look quite good, and the current projections seem even better than they imagined. So that was another thing that was really successful in this past year. But you know what? That's not that interesting. What's more interesting is what's coming up in the next 12 months and the Old School RuneScape reveals. So let's start off with the new continent. Let's be honest, they did a huge section about the new continent last year at RuneFest 2014. A lot of the things that were happening on the new continent, or at least to me it seemed like a lot of the things that were being designed on the new continent were being done by ModReach. Obviously he left quite a while ago now, and they've sort of put the new continent on the back burner because the other people in the Old School RuneScape team have been developing other pieces of content. But it looks like the Old School RuneScape team have decided to dedicate themselves a bit more to it, and I reckon Mod Ghost is really getting into designing this new continent. They've decided to release the new continent in 3 stages. The first stage will be Great Kourend. Effectively, Great Kourend is a 5-house city where all of the houses are kind of at each other's throats. Each of the houses represent a couple of skills in RuneScape. For example, House Archers represents runecrafting and magic. As players, we'll be able to go into these cities, earn favour with these families, and then get benefits in those skills that those families represent. For example, House Archers will have a dark magic spellbook. So that sounds very interesting. A lot of the things that they said were going to be skilling related pieces of content, but don't worry, if you're a bit of a combat buff, there will be a combat specific house. A lot of the content that they mentioned, or at least the rewards for earning favour with these houses, aren't things like XP boosts, but they are more interesting and engaging ways of training your normal skills. For example, farming, they had the idea of living plants, having to tame them and farm them. Personally, I think this sounds really cool, and I like the idea of giving our skills a lot more variety in just how you train them. Not necessarily the XP or anything, but just what you do to train them to make them more fun. Let's quickly move on to stage 2 and 3 of the new continent. Stage 2 of the new continent, something quite plain and simple, raids. This will be released around June 2016. These raids will be focused on a volcano on the new continent. The scale of these raids are going to be something you have never seen in RuneScape before. I've heard that RuneScape 3 has a new version of raids, and I know that they've got 5-person dungeoneering, but these raids will allow you to take up to 100 players in with you at once. Which sounds really interesting, and if they can pull it off, will be really cool. And stage 3 of the new continent will be the Colosseum. This will be released around January 2017. Basically, the Colosseum will be this huge area where you can do PvP combat. You'll be able to take part in enormous battles and win huge amounts of money because each player will pay a certain amount to get in. They've mentioned the Colosseum in plenty of their dev blogs about the new continent. So if you don't know much about it, where have you been? It's something huge, and many players will love it. Personally, I think it'll be some kind of amazing expansion and mix-up of the fight pits and the duel arena. Moving next, on to an even bigger reveal than the new continent, because we've known about that for over a year, Monkey Madness 2. So Monkey Madness has been in game for well over 10 years. Or at least it was released 10 years ago in RuneScape. There's never really been a sequel to Monkey Madness. I believe there might have been a few quests in RuneScape 3 that require Monkey Madness to be completed, but there's never been a direct sequel. And now, the Old School RuneScape team are promising us a new Monkey Madness quest with Gluff, demons, all of the things you'd expect from that. If you've not played the Grand Tree or Monkey Madness, then this is a bit of a spoiler, but if you have, then here's the sort of basic idea. In both of those quests, Gluff is planning some evil things to the world of Galenor. When you try and stop him, he sets a demon on you. The basic underlying plot that they said Monkey Madness 2 would have is that Gluff is actually researching how to make genetically perfect demons that will win the world for him. He'll release a really high level demon on you and you'll have a really big boss fight. They also mentioned, I don't know whether this will be in the quest or as a cave later on after the quest, but there would be some kind of cave with quote-unquote tormented demons. Basically the demons he tried to make before the big one, but they didn't quite turn out properly. I don't know if these are going to be some kind of relation to RuneScape 3's tormented demons. Personally, I don't want them to be. I suppose potentially the mechanics of them could be there. Definitely wouldn't want anything like Dragon Claws. But I'm sure many people will be asking for Dragon Claws when that comes out. What I thought was really interesting about this new quest that they proposed is that you'll be venturing deeper into Ape Atoll. It will have a lot of similar content and just expand on it so much more. Moving on to the Fight Cave expansion and Jad 2. Effectively, this Fight Cave expansion will be your normal fight caves with more waves. You'll have to fight multiple Jads and then there will be an even higher level boss to kill at the end. They also mentioned that there's going to be a best in slot cape as a reward from this. They're not too sure about the details of this cape. They said it could be melee, range or magic, but they definitely want it to be a combat cape. The things I didn't quite understand about this Fight Cave expansion, and I'm sure they'll tell us more about it in the future, is that how do you get in to the expansion of the Fight Cave? To me, the way that Mod Alfred described it was you just do the normal fight caves and then you go on to the next stage. Whereas I would assume that you'd have to say, I want to be doing the expanded version of the fight caves before you start. Also, they've not really gone into much detail about what Jad 2 is going to be like. Whether it's going to be literally a second version of Jad, bigger version of Jad, or a completely different creature altogether. Either way, you know it's going to be a great boss battle, especially when you have to kill multiple Jads to even get to it. I think the new best in slot cape will be very fitting for the challenge, because many people struggle to get the fire cape, let alone kill multiple Jads and kill an even newer Jad in order to get this new cape. Next we had a bit more on Zaya. Wintertodt is a very cold area on Zaya. However, it's a very important area because a lot of the mages on Zaya get their power from that area. Because it's such a cold area, there's going to be so much skilling content there. You're going to need fire makers, woodcutters and herbalists to make sure the temperatures there don't get too cold. You're going to also have to repair many things with your smithing and crafting skills. And when you do this, you'll be earning favour with those houses that we mentioned earlier with the first stage of the Zaya updates. This sounds very interesting. I think giving fire making is something that people really want, and it could provide some really interesting alternative skilling methods. I can imagine some really interesting content in this area. However, they've not really gone into any specifics at the moment, so I imagine it'll be a lot better when they do. Next, massive construction updates. Well, they didn't say massive, but I'm going to say massive, because when I was watching the stream, I thought, these are huge. So first of all, they want to add a new house menu that gives you a new way to design your house. This is completely revolutionary. I don't know whether it's going to improve the skill or just change it completely, but it's completely revolutionary. You can still do it the old way if you like, but if you want to just move a room, then you don't have to completely destroy everything and lose a lot of money in the process. They want to add a superior garden. This garden will be a high level garden, way past formal. You'll be able to add some really interesting things. One of the most interesting, I think, is the regeneration pool. Similar to those pools in Uglog in RuneScape 3, it restores your prayer, special attack and run energy when you're in them. Moving on to the achievement gallery. We've already got skilling trophy rooms and quest trophy rooms, but this would be an achievement room. Effectively a room to show off your high level skills and quests that you've done in game. This is going to include so many things. I think one of the more interesting items in this would be the jewelry box. It will give you unlimited teleports because you'll be able to put all of your teleport jewelry inside of it. So obviously it is a huge construction update, and I think construction really needs some kind of expansion. I know when they were polling sailing, I did mention that a lot of that stuff could be used in construction. Either way, a lot of this stuff is going to be really useful. I think the superior garden and the achievement gallery will fit really well. The one thing I'm a little bit unsure about is having a new house menu to rearrange your rooms. I like the idea, it's just I'm worried that it's going to change construction way too much. I suppose it'll just have to be one of those things where we bite the bullet in the hope that it's going to be good. Finally, we've got Deadman Mode. Everyone knows about Deadman Mode. There was a poll recently, and people have been hyping about it for a while. Additionally, a lot of hype for these sorts of games have been increased because of Darkscape for RuneScape 3. If you want to get my full opinion on Deadman mode, I recommend that you go back and find my poll video. In fact, I'll link it at the end of this video. But the basic concept of it is, there's PvP everywhere. You get 5 times XP rates because the amount of XP you lose when you die is 50%. When you die, you'll lose your normal things that you're carrying, plus 28 stacks from your bank, which I believe are going to be the most expensive stacks in your bank. They'll increase the combat logout timer, probably from 10 to 30 seconds, and the Grand Exchange is going to be disabled. So if you're someone that's comparing Deadman mode and Darkscape, then here are some clear differences between them. I believe that Darkscape has various different Grand Exchanges with different difficulties, so you can sell and buy things at different prices. Deadman mode is going to be very raw, very risky, and it's also going to be very rewarding for anyone that can survive. Which Old School RuneScape reveal are you looking forward to the most? Let me know in the comments below. Personally, I can't wait for Monkey Madness 2. It sounds like it's going to be amazing, and it's one of those updates that they would really struggle to screw up. If you want to watch my latest video where I got 150 subscribers and I showed you my RuneScape character, please click here for 150 subscribers and meet my RuneScape character. If you want to watch the latest Old School RuneScape update, please click here for the Abyssal Sire. And if you want to watch my Deadman mode survival PvP poll video, please click here. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and share, and if you want to keep up to date with the Old School RuneScape updates, devlogs and polls, please subscribe. I've been Lewis, thanks for watching, goodbye.